Introduction. Consumers have largely contributed to the growth of various businesses. This is because every successful business venture requires potential buyers. As a result, the role of the consumer on business prosperity can never be neglected. It is sad to mention that many businesses have closed due to lack of consumption of their products. However, other businesses have prospered due to the availability of more consumer of their products than they can even contain. Therefore, this paper attempts to define consumer behavior and explain the role of culture in consumer buying behavior. Although there are other factors such as personal, psychological, and social factors that affect consumer behavior, this paper will concentrate on cultural factors affecting consumer behavior only. Cultural factors affecting consumer behavior. Consumer behavior can be defined as the behavior that consumers display in searching for, purchasing, using, evaluating, and disposing of products and services that they expect will satisfy their needs. However, there is another description of consumer behavior as the mental and physical activities undertaken by households and organizational consumers that results in decisions and actions to pay for, purchase, and the use of the product and service. There are two levels of consumer behavior: the personal consumer and organizational consumer. The personal consumer is usually the one that buys products for personal use. On the contrary, organizational consumers are described as the consumers who buy goods and service to run their organization, for instance, the government organizations. Culture is defined as a way of life. Therefore, culture contributes much to the behavior of the individual, in this case, consumer, even though people rarely understand their own culture. The characteristics of culture are adaptive, dynamic, and patterned blueprints which can be interpreted to help the individual behave in a manner that is acceptable to the rest of the members of that culture. The myths, values, symbols, and ritual have helped in defining the culture, and using them may help in determining the consumer behavior. Consumer behaviors are studied mainly because the behavior of the consumer can never be predicted by the marketing theory. Therefore, many consumers have unique requirements on the product and service, and it is of important value that consumer behaviors are clearly understood. Some of the cultural factors that affect consumer behavior are outlined as follows: culture, subculture, and social class. Culture, as it has been indicated earlier, has a significant effect on the behavior of the consumer. There are different cultures among countries of the world, therefore the marketers have to study the culture of the potential consumer before they offer the goods and services for sale. For instance, various studies have indicated that culture affects the behavior of the consumer in buying of the good and service, that is, it has affected the decision of the consumer on buying. Culture has greatly influenced diverse age group of the consumer in buying of the cosmetic and skincare product, and finally, the decision of the consumer in buying of the cosmetic and product is affected by the lifestyle factors. Subculture arises from the culture, since all the cultures found in the world have got different subcultures such as nationality, religion, racial, gender, or geographical region. For example, recent studies have established that men are increasingly using skincare products. Due to this fact, it was reported that sales of male grooming products went up by 18% in the whole world during the period 2006 to 2011, while the market was estimated to be of value $25 billion. Religion can never be underestimated in understanding consumer behavior, since it is considered a long-time phenomenon. It is an important cultural factor that influences values, attitude, and behavior of the consumer. For example, religion can provide restrictions about the use of cosmetic and skin care product. Another example is that countries found in Asia have a large market of the cosmetic and skincare product, therefore the manufacturer should study the culture of these countries to meet the needs of the consumer. The last example on subculture is based on the gender. According to various studies that have been carried out, it has been established that more women are a potential consumer of cosmetics and skincare product as compared to the number of men who use the same products. Social class is defined as the status hierarchy by which groups and individuals are classified based on esteem and prestige. According to Warner, he defined the social class as a group of individuals who other members of the community see as equal in social prestige and whom others believe to be superior or inferior to other groups that constitute the social classes below them or above them. Generally, there are three different types of social class. First, there is an upper class which is subdivided into upper upper and lower upper. Second, there is the middle class which is subdivided into upper middle and lower middle. Finally, there is a lower class which is subdivided into upper lower and lower lower. It follows that members in the same social class have similar status and therefore the buying habit in a particular social class is similar. The members in the same social class share common belief, behavior, and value. For example, the lower-class women are the most influential in the buying of cosmetic products while the upper-lower-class women tend to respond more on the promotion of the cosmetic and skincare products. Conclusion. In conclusion, consumer behavior is vital for the prosperity of the business. Therefore, it is of significant value to study the trends and the behavior of the consumer towards the buying of the product and service. Also, it is worth to analyze the factors which affect the behavior of the consumer since the consumer has a large contribution to the business. Given the diversity in the cultural backgrounds, it is important that marketers understand the differences in the cultural outfits and how these differences impact on their decision-making. As a result, it is a challenge to various policymakers to design methods that will help in studying consumer behavior to establish their buying trends. Without understanding the cultural factors that impact on their buying behavior, the marketers may not understand the needs of the customers and hence fail to provide quality. Therefore, understanding of cultural factors affecting consumer behavior will help the business in fulfilling the desires of the consumer and consequently turn the business into a successful venture. StudyCorgi.com has everything you need for successful studies. Writing tools, informative articles, and essay samples. Come check it out!